It's Red Eye Radio. Talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios. For Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Dan Mandis, this is Red Eye Radio.
866-90 Red Eye is the phone number, 866-907-3339. Dan Mandis here, in for Gary and Eric. Appreciate you listening. So apparently last night, this is just a story that is going to continue to evolve. Drones were found in California, near Camp Pendleton in Temecula, apparently. So that is the very latest now. Last night, drones spotted over Camp Pendleton in Temecula, and that's in California, Southern California area. So now, here we are, once again, with drones around a military installation. So we'll keep you updated as we find out more information on that. The bottom line is Camp Pendleton has come out and they have said, we don't know where these drones are from. We don't know whose they are and what have you. One of the things, though, that they do say is that their operations were not impacted. But again, nobody knows where the drones came from, and this is going to be an ongoing conversation. A couple of other things that I want to talk about. We've done a lot of stories this morning, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm getting over an awful cold, and so I'm struggling as I get deeper into the program. Eric Adams, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, met with Tom Homan. Of course, you know who Tom Homan is. He is Donald Trump's incoming border czar. And I love that there's a lot being made of the conversation between Tom Homan and Eric Adams. Now, you know that New York, that has been ground zero, really New York and Chicago, ground zero for illegal immigration and migrant crime in this country. And so everybody seems to be so concerned with what is going to happen beyond the bad guys, right? Beyond the criminals. And I'm here to tell you, Donald Trump has already given indication as to who he wants to deport and when. He wants to start, as everyone knows, with the bad guys, but then he's going to go and he's going to deport other people that are simply here illegally. And so the media, and I don't know if they're trying to distract from the fact that Trump is focused on the bad guys right now. But that is what it seems to me. Because, and I want you to listen to this audio from Meet the Press, Kirsten Welker, over the last weekend, where she kept hounding Donald Trump over what he's going to do with those that are simply in this country illegally but have not broken any other laws.
Is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it. It's a very tough thing to do, but you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally. The people that have been treated very unfairly are the people that have been online for 10 years to come into the country. And we're going to make it very easy for people to come in terms of they have to pass the test. They have to be able to tell you what the Statue of Liberty is. They have to tell you a little bit about our country. They have to love our country. They can't come out of prisons. We don't want people that are in for murder.
Yeah, so this isn't a mystery to anyone. These reporters in New York, after Eric Adams meets with Tom Homan, they're asking the same question that Kirsten Welker did, which is, how could you possibly? I mean, this is sort of like the accusatory tone of the media, where they're saying, how could you meet with Tom Homan? What do you mean you're going to be deporting illegal aliens? And Eric Adams is like, yeah, we're going to be deporting illegal aliens. And he was very specific, though, when he said that they primarily right now, as everyone knows, they're going to be going after the murderers and the rapists. But, by and large, Adams said, the meeting went well.
I heard from the incoming head of ICE is that we have the same desire to go after those who are committing violent acts, repeated violent acts among innocent New Yorkers and among migrants and asylum seekers. That's what I heard from him, and I was pleased to hear that because we share the same desire.
Right. I mean, right now in New York, it's really one of the worst cities out there in terms of crime with illegals. I mean, you've got New York, you've got Chicago, you've got Los Angeles, you've got, I mean, it just goes on and on. Latest number I saw out of New York, maybe you remember this. I'm sure Gary and Eric covered it. Latest numbers I saw, 58,000 illegals living in New York with criminal backgrounds. So put another way, 75% of arrests in Midtown Manhattan are illegal aliens. Police sources telling the New York Post that as many as 75% of people arrested in Midtown Manhattan in recent months for crimes such as assault, robbery, domestic violence are immigrants in part of Queens. That figure is estimated to be over 60%. And so Eric Adams is like, yeah, I'm meeting with Trump because I'm trying to keep New Yorkers safe. And they say that the situation is exacerbated by sanctuary city laws, of course, that prevent New York police from collaborating with ICE on cases where they suspect individuals are in the country illegally. And what about the missing kids? Remember that the New York Times and others have come out and reported that kids are being worked illegally in slave-like conditions. They're working 10, 15, 20 hours straight. And they're afraid to go to the authorities because they don't want to be deported. And so they're being trafficked, sex trafficked and otherwise. Or we simply don't know where they are. And Eric Adams is asking about that. He said, okay, well, what about the kids?
We have 500,000 children who had sponsors in this country that we can't find. We can't find them. We don't know if they're doing child labor. We don't know if they're doing sex crimes. We don't know if they're being exploited. 500,000 children. There's a level of hypocrisy that everyone that states they want to protect everyone but innocent individuals who are victims of crimes and children. I want to support and protect children and innocent people that are victims of crime. And those who don't understand that, it's not up to me to try to convince them. I know what my job is, my goal is, and I was clear of that while running and when I became mayor. Safety means everything to me. 500,000 children, we don't know where they are right now in this country.
Yeah, so remember what he just said. Because everything... Well, first of all, everything that I have seen shows 300,000, 350,000. It's the first time I've heard 500,000 invoked. But, I mean, basically, that's according to the Inspector General from Homeland Security. And they do say that it's true. They have no idea where some of these kids are, but some say it's more of a paperwork issue. And I read that, and the only thing that I could think of, okay, so then somebody please go to Homeland Security. Somebody please go to Alejandro Mayorkas and say, hey, Alejandro, you know that kid from Guatemala that illegally came across our border and you took him in and he had a sponsor, so you sent him along his way. Can you tell me where he is? Tell me where Jose Padilla is. He was 12 years old when he came in, and you sent him to, this place in, Alabama. They have no idea where they are. Because part of what's happening is that there's so much chaos going on at the southern border created by Joe Biden, it is impossible to keep track of what's really happening. News Nation and others reported that kids are being used to smuggle drugs these kids are being used as decoys. So the Border Patrol focuses on the kids and the drugs get through. I mean, this is not news to you, friends. You listen to Gary and Eric, you listen to talk radio, you know what this is all about. And so Eric Adams is absolutely right. The Democrats are always saying, and I think ironically so, given their position on abortion, but I love how the Democrats are always saying, if we could save just one child, right? Isn't that what they say? Well, you got somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000 children that have literally disappeared thanks to Joe Biden's policies. And Adams is a Democrat. And other Democrats are now out there, mayors and governors, And they have now said that they will actually use taxpayer dollars to Trump-proof their cities. And so I like the fact that Eric Adams is bucking that trend and says, yeah, I'm getting a lot of hatred, but it doesn't matter to me.
To ensure that I keep New Yorkers safe. That's my only goal. I cannot make it any clearer, and so if pursuing that goal means that my years and years of advocating for immigrants that are here attempting to find the American dream, if that demonizes me, then I'm going to take it. But I'm going to save lives in this city.
Yeah, that's what he says. And here's the bottom line. Bottom line is he'll absolutely be able to save lives by getting the bad guys out. Dan, did you hear this? Dan Goldman is, I like to call him the village idiot. You folks in New York probably know what I'm talking about. Dan Goldman is a congressman, and he is just, I'm just going to tell you, he's not a bright guy. I call him the village idiot for the Democrats, but there's a lot of competition for that title within that party. But Goldman represents New York in the House of Representatives, Manhattan, and parts of Brooklyn. And he was upset. This is so shocking to me. He was actually upset knowing that everything New York has gone through, that he had to sit through a subcommittee hearing on illegal immigration. Now think about this. Everything New York is going through, murders, rapes, all that stuff. And he is ticked off because he has to sit through a meeting on illegal immigration. And it's stunning to me that he doesn't understand what's going on in his own city. And that's kind of what I thought was really funny about all of this.
Mr. Chairman, it is quite shocking that we're having another hearing on this same topic. We have certainly exhausted it. I think we've probably had every single law enforcement official from Nassau County before this subcommittee. I can't say I'm going to miss that when the chairman is not going to be with us next term.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. And Commissioner Ryder, I'm sure Mr. Goldman means no absolute disrespect to the people of Nassau County as he appreciates you keeping his summer home safe each year. So
I just can't imagine with the issues going on in New York, that's Goldman's attitude. And by the way, the other guy in that is Congressman Esposito, who represents Nassau County in Congress, pointed out during the hearing that Goldman, who has a net worth of $253 million and is heir to the Levi Strauss & Company jeans, Levi Strauss & Company jeans company, owns a summer home in the county and is one of the residents kept safe by Nassau officers. Esposito telling Fox News Digital, unfortunately, it's as expected from a partisan hack like Dan Goldman, the chairman, telling Fox News, these are the men and women that hold the line between good and evil. And the idea that Congressman Goldman had to talk about the fact that he was looking forward to not having to hear from Nassau County police officers, well, he should take inspiration from the work that's been done here in Nassau County, says Esposito. And he's absolutely right. But you know what? The Democrats, they vote people like Dan Goldman in, and for the love of all that is holy, I don't understand why. But I love that Eric Adams, at least he is a Democrat that is holding the line. That what he wants to do is, yes, he wants to save lives there in New York. Now, I've got some great audio from Tom Homan coming up. He was there with Eric Adams, and he had some great things to say later on yesterday on Sean Hannity's show, including something that I thought was really interesting, and I can't wait to play it for you next. 866-90-RED-EYE, 866-907-3339. We'll return next on Red Eye Radio.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
What recommendations are provided by a Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee report regarding new federal dietary guidelines covering the period of 2025 to 2030? Janet DeJesus of the Department of Health and Human Services notes among those recommendations for HHS and USDA
have one flexible dietary pattern
consisting of core elements but flexible dietary choices, a model called Eat Healthy Your Way.
So really to show people that there's many ways that you can eat. For example, your protein foods can be solely vegetable, or you can move across the continuum and include seafood and animal-based proteins.
The website, Dietary Guidelines, all one word, .gov, contains details on a 60-day public comment period on the report now underway and an oral comment public hearing scheduled for the middle of next month. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Red Eye Radio, 866-90-RED-EYE, 866-907-3339. Dan Mandis in for Gary and Eric. Appreciate you listening. They return Sunday night, Monday morning. So I was telling you earlier about the Eric Adams meeting with Tom Homan and some members of the incoming Trump administration, and about how Eric Adams is all in on getting rid of the illegal aliens, the murderers and the rapists, and beyond. Those to just include people that have been coming to our country illegally. I think part of what the media is trying to do, the media is really trying to focus on those people that have not committed violent crimes. And that's what they want to hyper-focus on. But you see, here's the thing, is that they're completely ignoring the fact that they're going to start, and I believe that the bulk of the Trump administration is going to be taken up with getting rid of the rapists and the murderers and the gangbangers. I believe that we won't even get to the point where we are getting rid of the people that have simply come into our country illegally. I believe they should go as well. But I think that their hands are going to be tied with all of the lawsuits and all of these Democrats and these Democrat mayors and governors who are saying that they will be fighting the Trump administration. But I love that Tom Homan, he was there. He was with Sean Hannity last night and said, yeah, these meetings, they did go well with Eric Adams.
Look, I sat down with the mayor for well over an hour. He gets it. And today he proved that as the mayor of New York City, he's more concerned with public safety than politics. I wish the mayor of Chicago and San Diego City Council and Governor Pritzker, I wish they'd all take a page out of Mayor Eric Adams' playbook, because the ex-cop came out of him today. He really cares about public safety, and he's putting politics aside. He wants to help ICE take criminal threats off the street. He wants to help ICE look for national security threats. He wants to help ICE find over 340,000 missing children, which many of them are going to be in the city. So a great meeting, and hats off to the mayor for coming to the table and working with us.
It's kind of funny because, Eric Adams is getting, as he should, a ton of love from the right, which is great, but don't forget how we got here. We got here because Adams was out there talking about how welcoming of a city New York is, especially for illegal aliens, and then all these Republicans, they're all racists and bigots and all that. Remember when Eric Adams did that? And so DeSantis and Abbott, governors, they shipped a bunch of illegals to his town, and when the crap got real, his tune changed really quickly.
No, I don't, but I'll tell you this. Ever since it's been announced that I met with Mayor Adams, several other mayors, and I can't speak out. I don't want to give it up right now because I haven't called them back, but I've been in contact by a couple other mayors. Even Governor Pritzker, I saw in the paper today, he's willing to sit down. So I think what Mayor Adams did today is not only good for New York City, I think it's going to be a domino effect. I'm hoping that some of the mayors come forward after seeing the success we had today.
Yeah, and you know what? He says that there has been. Mayors and governors are beginning to reach out. Coming up next, my absolutely favorite Tom Homan moment from last night's interview with Sean Hannity and a whole lot more straight ahead.
Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios. Now, for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, here is Dan Mandis.
866-90 Red Eye's the phone number, 866-907-3339. And Gary and Eric return Sunday night. Monday morning, I pulled audio from this great interview that Tom Homan did with Sean Hannity last night after his big meeting with New York Mayor Eric Adams. And so the fact that, and we were talking about this before the break, the fact that Adams actually sat down with Tom Homan, and yeah, he's getting all kinds of hate from the left and from the New York media as they're, just all freaking out about the fact that he sat down to meet with Donald Trump's incoming border czar. He's getting all kinds of hate. But it makes sense for the American people. It makes sense for the people in New York. And so I like what Tom Homan had to say, where he said, listen, I'm now hearing, because of the fact that Eric Adams met with me, now I'm hearing from other mayors and governors as well. That's a good thing. Now, Tom Homan says the first city that is going to start getting the murderous illegals out of their city is the city of Chicago. And, it's been really bad in Chicago. It's been really, really bad in Chicago. And so Homan says, yeah, Chicago is going to be the first.
Chicago's in trouble because your mayor sucks and your governor sucks.
That was Tom Homan. Listen, he's right. I wonder if we're still on in Chicago.
Chicago's in trouble because your mayor sucks and your governor sucks.
I mean, he's right. As a matter of fact, one of the things that Tom Homan said was that if the mayor of Chicago, if he interferes with Homan trying to get some of the bad guys out, then he'll arrest him and charge him with harboring a fugitive. I mean, look, this is why people love Tom Homan so much.
Chicago's in trouble because your mayor sucks and your governor sucks.
By the way, the governor of Chicago, J.D. Pritzker. And so we'll see what happens in Chicago. It is, a guy called earlier, and he had said that he was losing, I'm going to very much paraphrase because, look, it was hours ago. That's a long 5 hours. But the guy called up earlier and he said, hey, it feels like he was getting demoralized with America. He's calling from Indiana. And he was getting demoralized with America. And the reason why he was getting demoralized with America is because everywhere you turn, it's like people are traitorous. There's traitors all around us. And the more that we hear of the Democrats and the Biden administration, the more traitorous they seem. And then you get down to the people of America who are supporting people like J.D. Pritzker and the mayor of Chicago and Gavin Newsom out there in California, the governor, where they are promising to do everything they possibly can to fight Donald Trump in getting murderous, raping, illegal aliens out of our country. And what doesn't make any sense, this guy was like, what doesn't make any sense is that seems like they're traitors. And he's absolutely right. I mean, what kind of a American politician puts murdering, raping illegal aliens over American citizens? Because if that's what they're doing, if that's what they're saying, which they are, by the way, that they're going to do all they can to prevent Donald Trump from deporting these people, then that is what they're doing. They're putting these illegal aliens over American citizens. And so when Homan says,
Chicago's in trouble because your mayor sucks and your governor sucks.
Well, the same could be said for all of these other Democrat-run cities and states. But then he said this, and I thought this was interesting. You ready? Listen to this.
Also, as President Trump is committed, we're going to deputize every U.S. citizen in this country to help us find 340,000 missing children, because we need the public's help on this. Every mom and dad knows what it's like. They have a gut feeling when they see something out there in the public that there's something ain't right with that child. So we're going to deputize every one of them to help us find these children.
There you go. I mean, that is Tom Homan, and he wants to deputize millions of Americans to help find these missing children. Which, by the way, clearly, obviously, that's not a bad thing. We need to do whatever we can to find these children. You know what's amazing, too, is you have people that will say, oh, well, that's just I was talking earlier, that's just a paperwork error. Is it really? Because it's just a paperwork error, then we should be able to find these kids very quickly. And so, you know, what Trump ought to do when he comes into office, he ought to start spot checking. He ought to start spot checking and say, okay, I want to know where these kids are. And if you can't tell me exactly where these kids are, then I'm going to assume that we have no idea where all of these kids are. By the way, headlines this morning, Donald Trump weighing options, including airstrikes to stop Iran's nuclear program. That's a headline from the Wall Street Journal. Let me tell you something. That is a very big deal. Iran, we were talking about that earlier, where Iran is doing everything that they possibly can to continue with their nuclear program, and Trump does need to stop it. The question is, how or what is the best way to do that? And going to have a lot of military people that will say, oh, yeah, absolutely. You want to do all you can, even if it means blowing up their nuclear silos and blowing up those facilities where they're creating that nuclear program. I mean, the big problem with the Biden administration is trusting the terrorists. You see what's going on in Syria. I haven't even touched on Syria yet tonight, but in Syria, you've got obviously Bashar al-Assad. He is now gone, and he is in Moscow somewhere with his $2 billion. And so now we've got our own Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and he is saying that he will go ahead and recognize this terrorist organization as the new government of Syria. Now, if you don't know, the organization that has forced Assad out, they have connections to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And the leader is a guy that's got a $10 million bounty on his head because he's a terrorist. And so that's going to be a great thing for the incoming Trump administration to have to deal with, is now we have Syria. And by the way, trust me when I say I'm no fan of Bashar al-Assad. Recognize the government of Syria being led by a guy where we have a $10 million bounty on his head for being a terrorist. Now we're going to recognize that government? Doesn't make any sense. And so now this is yet another train wreck that the incoming Trump administration is going to have to deal with. I mean, there are fire. You ever take over a new job? I have multiple times, where you walk in and the person that was in your job previously just wasn't very good at his job. And so you come in and you've got all of these things that you need to fix. That's what Donald Trump is walking into. And obviously, I'm stating the obvious here for you folks, but obviously, you know, during Trump's first 4 years, he left and things were pretty good. I mean, obviously, the thing with COVID, but we were coming out of COVID. Economy would have been fine if Joe Biden had just left the damn thing alone. But no, he had to spend all of that money, give all of those stimulus packages, and that led to that high inflation. But that's not where I want to go. So Trump left us in pretty good shape. Biden comes in, literally train wrecks everything. I asked this on my local show a while back. Is there anything that Joe Biden has not screwed up? Can you name one thing that Joe Biden did not destroy? And I don't think anybody came up with anything. Every facet of life in America was impacted in a negative way under Joe Biden. From a political standpoint, I don't think there's one thing that Joe Biden didn't screw up. And so the longer that Biden is in office and as he sees the, his waning, 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it's going to be now, he is trying to create as much chaos as possible. I thought it was interesting. Aaron sent this to me. You know Charlamagne, right? This DJ in New York, and he's very popular. And he and one of his cohorts, Biden is thinking of preemptive pardons. And Charlamagne, who again he's very popular, especially in the black community, and he and his cohort are debating as to whether or not Joe Biden should give these preemptive pardons. And I got to say, I agree with Charlamagne on this, where Charlamagne says that Joe Biden should not give preemptive pardons to whether it's, himself, members of his family, Liz Cheney, some of the other folks that were involved in the January 6th committee. He says, Charlamagne says, no, if you haven't done anything wrong, then why do you need the pardons?
Pardons either makes people look guilty, if you ask me. Biden should be pardoning all the nonviolent drug offenders in federal prison. He should be pardoning everybody in federal prison for nonviolent weed convictions, okay? Yep. He should be pardoning Marilyn Mosby. Those are the pardons he should be working on before he get his old ass up out of here.
And you don't think the preemptive, there's people that Trump are going to be attacking, right? You know there's people that went at Trump, that tried to get him locked up. You know he's going to go with them.
Yeah, but why would I be pardoning you if you don't have any crimes connected to you? Don't that make you look guilty? If I give you a preemptive pardon?
No, it means that we know who Trump is and we know what Trump's probably going to do.
That means, it could mean Trump knows something that we don't know.
There. That's a great comment by Charlamagne. Maybe Donald Trump knows something that the Democrats don't want you to know, right? Charlamagne is right in this sense. His cohort, and I don't know the crew on Charlamagne's staff, but the other guy is saying, well, yeah, but Donald Trump is saying he's going to come after us. Well, like Charlamagne says, if you didn't do anything wrong, then you have nothing to worry about. And by the way, I would say, you mean like the Democrats went after Trump? Because that's what they did, obviously. You all know that. And so if they didn't do anything wrong, well, then they'll be the last ones standing, and they'll have the last laugh. Because then Trump will sit there with egg on his face if he does go after the people that went after him. And I know that people have often said, Donald Trump is in his enemies list, and Donald Trump is going to go after his political enemies. Well, as I often say, those political enemies of Donald Trump, they're actually enemies of the American people too, because they went after Trump in his first term when he was trying to carry out his agenda that the American people voted on, and they did everything they possibly could to stop him. Whether it was lawfare, whether it was investigations, whether it was leaks and lies to the media, it goes on and on. Committees and subcommittees and special counsels, and it went on forever. And Trump never really did get the opportunity to do what he should have been able to do in that first term, which was simply legislate and fulfill his campaign promises.
And that's why he's going after these people. I just don't understand why you would give somebody a preemptive pardon. Like, it just feels like you saying, okay, I know this person is guilty of something, and Trump may go after them.
Because he said for the last couple of years he's going to be going at them.
Yeah, but I can't just go at you for no reason.
Donald Trump?
I mean, it just seems strange to do preemptive pardons. If you ask
All
me.
right.
But what do I know? I stay out of white people. I try to stay out of white people's business.
Last part. I try to stay out of white people's business. Okay. memo to Charlamagne that it's not just white people, but it's America. And America and our government is incredibly corrupt, and specifically the DOJ. And Donald Trump is trying to fix that. So it's not just a, quote, white people's business. Dan Mandis here, 866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio, 866-90-RED-EYE, 866-907-3339. Reminder that there are some drones out in California over Camp Pendleton last night, and that's in the Temecula area of California. So that is one of many news stories that you'll be hearing about today. You can follow me on the socials at Dan Mandis Show on X and also on Facebook. Have a great day.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.